So, just wanted to give you um, an opportunity to see what's in bloom in the garden this spring. So you can see there in the background are the mango trees. Here's my dog. So there's the mango trees, Alfonso mangoes, Glen mangoes, Phoenix. Let me just take this off the tripod here. Phoenix mango. Here. That little one right there is a Kent. That's a Kent mango. The one behind it off in the distance against the fence, that's a Phoenix mango. It's a brand new variety from the Zill family down in South Florida. This one right here in the foreground, this is an Alfonso. That one behind it is the Glen mango. It's one of my favorites actually. And really prolific tree actually. Prolific producer, hardy grower. I mean, if you were thinking about getting a mango and you only had space for one tree, just one or two trees, seriously consider the Glen, because the Glen mango is, I have found to be far and away the most reliable, the least problematic to grow, the most vigorous, and produces honestly, it's probably one of the best mangoes I've ever tasted. Flavor wise, it's good. It's really good. It doesn't have, you know, any exotic overtones or anything like that, like some people like to describe or ascribe to mango flesh. I personally think they all pretty much taste the same. I don't detect those subtle overtones that they talk about. But mango is a really good fruit anyway, and even a run-of-the-mill mango is a really good tasting fruit. But the Glen has the benefit of being almost fiberless. That's the key difference. And so easy to digest, so easy to process, so easy to grow, and just an all-around great tree, and so reliable. It produces every year, and it produces in abundance. So Glen should be on top of your list if you're looking at mango trees. Behind the Glen is another Alfonso. If you're wondering why I have two Alfonsos, it's because I like the Alfonso mango, and I heard that they're not very productive trees in my climate. So I bought two in order to try and improve my odds of getting a harvest and improve my odds of, you know, having the tree survive, which so far it's been okay. It's grown well. I haven't had any problems with growing it, but I have to say that production-wise, it's not been a stellar performer yet. That may change this year because this is the second year I have it in the ground, and it actually bloomed a lot more this year than it did last year. So that might be I might report something different about that later. But anyway, these are the citrus trees. This is a Tangelo. Tangelo. It's a good tasting fruit. It's not a fantastic tasting fruit, honestly. I like the orange. I like the navel oranges better. But it's a good tasting fruit, and it is a very nice tree. As you can see, the bees love it. The bees just love. You know, that's one of the problems I have. Is that the bees are so attracted to citrus that they completely ignore all the other stuff that's in bloom, plums, apples, pears. They just don't pay much attention to it. And I think it has to do with the fact that the aroma of citrus blooms is so much stronger than all those other trees. And I'm thinking that's what it is. It's attracting them. You can see there are a couple bees flying around. Anyway, moving right along. These are the other citrus trees. There's another Tangelo. And then there's off in the distance is another Tangelo. That's Tangelo. Citrus in Florida I have a love-hate relationship with it. I love citrus, and I always have. They're beautiful trees. I've always loved them. but I hate the fact that they're so disease ridden and disease prone. I hate that aspect of them. And on more than one occasion, I've actually contemplated ripping them out and putting something else in there, just because they're so disappointing when they get attacked by so many insects and so many diseases, you know. But I've you know, each time I've stayed my hand and not allow and you know, not gone through with it. But I don't know how much longer I can tolerate that, the disease pressures and all the other problems with citrus. But they're such beautiful trees. I mean, when I was a boy growing up in Florida in the 1970s, you know, Florida was then a powerhouse state in citrus, and it was awesome. The whole state was a giant citrus bowl. I mean, literally, it was everywhere you could find citrus, in every garden. They were mass producing massive amounts of citrus all over the state. You could get it dirt cheap because there was so much of it. But you know, those days are long gone. So anyway, these are my Santa Rosa plums. You can tell that they're actually blooming. This, you can tell that they actually have blooms. Those little whites, those are flowers. The little white things, those are flowers. There's one right there. The Santa Rosa plum is a beautiful fruit if you can get it to set fruit. It's really, really pretty. A lot of stuff bloomed this year, surprisingly. There's another Santa Rosa plum there. This one has always been the most prolific bloomer of the plums, but she doesn't set fruit. I don't know what's going on. They sold it to me as a Santa Rosa, and it certainly looks like a Santa Rosa, but I'm not so sure that it is, to be honest. Just because, you know, just because of the fact that she doesn't set fruit. And I'm thinking this might be a different variety that actually needs a pollinator. Even though I have other Japanese plums in the garden, they don't seem to find each other every year and cross-pollinate. So there's my apples. My apples most of them have not woken up except for one. It was this is a crab apple tree. I thought it was a tropic sweet, but I think it's actually a crab apple. It put out flowers this year. Like I said, most of the bees ignored it. Very disappointing. My apricots have put out flowers. So these are apriums, not apricots. Hey, by the way, if any of you guys know what this is growing on the branches, I find this all the time. I think it's lichen. I find it growing on my oak trees, and it's spread to all my other trees. I really despise it, and I don't know how to get rid of it. If I rip it out, it damages the bark layer it's attached to, and I don't know what to do with it, honestly. And I have a feeling that if I leave it unchecked, it's going to kill. It's going to eventually kill the tree. I tried spraying it with anti-fungicide. That didn't do anything. Tried with copper sprays. That didn't do anything either. So I just don't know what to do about that. Maybe one of you guys has an idea. Anyway, these are the blooms for the apriums. That's pretty. I think this is the first year it's bloomed this much. I don't think I've seen it bloom this much ever, actually. There's a second aprium. It's also got blooms on there. You can see it there. Pretty tree. These apricots are a pain, but they're beautiful. They have beautiful blooms, really, really pretty flowers. They're just a pain, that's all. They're a pain to grow and a pain to take care of. So let's see what else is blooming. You've already seen the Meyer lemons been in bloom for about a month now. This tree is a prolific bloomer. Oh, these are actually these plums right here. This is a Stark tree, Stark derivative. I forgot the name of it. I think it's Stark King plum. It's blooming for the first time, actually. No, not the first time, but it's blooming for the first time, coincident with the blooms on the what's that tree that blooms on the it's coincident with the blooming Santa Rosa plum tree. There, finally got the words out. My brain got crisscrossed there for a second. Got my wires crossed. There's some more of that. This is a Shiro plum, actually. This is actually a good pollinator for Santa Rosa, because I've actually hand pollinated it 1 year, and I got a nice, beautiful Santa Rosa plum out of it. Yeah, so this is a Meyer lemon. She's pretty much done blooming, but she's packed with fruit now. She's got a ton of little fruitlets. Now I just gotta let her grow and do her thing. Alright, let's go to the, this is interesting. This is a Diogenes prune. This is a European plum. Everyone says that this thing is actually a much higher chill tree than what's in my area, and yet look what it's doing. It's blooming. How about that, huh? Diogenes prune. It's a French prune, and I got it from Trees of Antiquity in California a couple years ago. I transplanted it once into my garden because one of the deer, some local wild deer, decided to use this tree as a you know, something to rub against and rub the velvet off their antlers. That really pissed me off, because I worked so hard to keep this tree alive, and these guys come in and they start just shredding it to pieces. So I uprooted it when it went dormant and brought it to the backyard where it's fenced in and keep the deer. You know, the deer, I can't keep the deer out, but I can certainly spook them, because I have dogs, and you know, they see the dog as a predator. So what else is going? There's one little surprise that I have for you at the end. Hang on. This is a Stanley prune, another European plum. Did not bloom, or hasn't bloomed yet. It's a little disappointing because I bought the Stanley prune to pollinate the Diogenes prune, the French prune. Right, that's the Stanley prune. I bought it to pollinate the French prune, and they seem to be putting out flowers at different times, and that is really disheartening. This is my apricot. This is my gold kiss apricot. Look at that. She has flowers. She has a lot of flowers this year. She didn't have this many last year. I would say she's been in the ground 3 years now. And here's the funny thing. My two, what do they call that? There's a special, very common name for an apricot. It grows in California. I forgot the name of it. Let me see if I can remember what it's called. I forgot the name now. Well, anyway, it's a very common California apricot. What I'll do is, when I remember the name, I'll put it as a text note in the video. And as soon as I planted these two gold-kissed apricot, here's the other gold-kissed, next to them, they went bananas. This year they put out flowers like crazy. Some of my family members have, you know, they believe that planting competing trees together actually encourages them to start producing flowers, ones that would normally not produce flowers. I thought that was bogus, but you know what? I think it might actually be true. I think they do something to each other that stimulates each other to produce flowers. Because once I put these two gold kiss, both of these apricots, they decided to Blenheim, that's the name. These are Blenheim apricots. That was the one I was thinking of in California. They're Blenheim, and now that the gold kiss are next to them, these four guys have now started producing flowers up to yin yang together. So I'm hoping that, you know, if things happen right, I might get apricots this year, because it's been a long time since I've had apricots. And apricot is one tree that I really, really like. And I will not uproot these trees. Even if they don't produce fruit, I leave them here, because I just happen to like them. I like the leaves on the apricot trees. I think they're a beautiful ornamental tree, so I keep them just the same. But yeah, man, I'm really happy with that this year. So, and now let me take you to the surprise that I had in store for you. Of course, I've already given you. Let me give you a close up of the apricot. Oh, look, there's a bee in there. There's a bee. So wild bee pollinating my apricots. Yay! One thing I've noticed about apricots is that the blooms are very, very delicate. So if you're not careful, if you start tinkering with them and start using little brushes to try and hand pollinate, what ends up happening, hold on, I got messed up the zoom there. What ends up happening is that you actually damage the bloom and it falls off. So this year I'm taking a hands-off approach. I'm not touching these blooms. I'm letting the insects only. I'm letting the insects do all the pollination. And that's part of the reason why I have this this beehive project coming online. The bees are going to be arriving actually in about a month, so stay tuned for updates on that as soon as they come in. But this is my tropic snow peach. These trees are really reliable bloomers. They bloom every year because they're so low chill. Now they don't produce a really big peach, but they produce a peach and it tastes really good. So it doesn't matter that they don't produce big peaches. If they produce lots of little peaches, I'm okay with that too. And they are prolific producers, so it's good. It's all good. Alright, so there's another tropic snow. That's another tropic snow. They really are well suited to Florida. If you live in Florida, in Central Florida, or higher elevations, and you want some peach trees, look, check out the tropic snow. I think you'll really, really like it. It's a good peach tree. It's very prolific, easy to grow. It produces lots of blooms every year, and it reliably, because it's so low chill that it doesn't require a lot of cold temperatures to get it to just take off and start producing flowers like crazy. So here's my surprise. Look at that. That is a beautiful plum tree. This is the second year this tree has done this to me. Actually, she's been in the ground for like 3 or 4 years. They don't grow very big, 10 to 12 feet tall. This is a spring satin plum cotton. But look at that. Last year she didn't put out as many flowers. The year before she did. Last year she took a break, so I think she might be biennial. She might have biennial tendencies. But man, wow. What a beautiful tree. Look at how many blooms she has. And the bees are going crazy over her too. Look at that. Up there's a bee in that branch. They're pollinating, and hopefully the bees will visit the Santa Rosas as well. This is one tree that requires, this is not a self-pollinating tree, as I understand it. It requires another Japanese plum variety to set fruit. Even though she had this much blooms a couple years ago, she did not set fruit, because at that time when she bloomed, there wasn't any other plum in the garden that was blooming. Well, this year is different. This year I already showed you. I have the Santa Rosa plums. I have the apricots, and have some apriums, which is also a hybrid, a plum apricot hybrid. So there's enough genetics in the garden to be able to make that this year, have it produce fruit this year, have it set fruit. The genetics are there. It just requires the bees to do their part. We'll see if that happens or not. These are wild bees that I'm relying on right now because, as I mentioned before, my colony of bees has not arrived yet. So I will be getting a bee package probably middle of March, late March, and I will go ahead and introduce it into its hive. These are my 2 hives. You can see them there. The one on the left is a brand new one from Hoover Hives. It's fully wax coated, so I didn't have to paint it. That's the one I'm going to use for the new package of bees. The one on the right is one that I got last year that was not waxed, and I really had to paint it heavily in order to keep it from going, from the wood from swelling and rotting on me right away. So that one, I plan to use it either for a wild hive that I capture, or if this hive that I have here splits and creates a swarm, because it outgrows that hive, creates a swarm, then I can capture that swarm and put it in this other hive. That's my plan. So I have all the pieces in play. Everything's moving together. All the pieces are moving, and hopefully these bees, which are coming from Georgia, will not be as familiar with citrus, and will have some familiarity with apple blooms and pear blooms, and will give my apples and pears, some loving attention that they need. Alrighty, I think that's it for me.